If you want to cut through the noise, then becoming an industry authority is a sure way to do it. With people out there spending so much money on marketing and advertising, very often it's not viable to compete with them on budget. With that in mind, in this series, I'm joined by Erin Haskell, who is the daughter of Dan Holohan. And Dan joined us on episode 60 of Toolbox Talks. However, Dan, they're from a company called heatinghelp.com, and they're the number one authority on the planet on the topic of heating. The reason I've asked her to come on the show is because they've done such a great job at solidifying their position as an expert and as an industry authority. And I know there's so much value in what they teach in helping you guys do that as well within your own industries, regardless of what it is. So it's broken down into 3 episodes. You'll be listening to either the first one, finding the right niche, the second one, which is creating engaging content, or the third one, which is attracting an audience. So enjoy the series. And if you do enjoy it, please leave us some comments in the show notes. And likewise, share it with a friend who you think would like it. Thank you.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello and welcome back to Toolbox Talks. My name is Matt Jones and you are joining me on the series that we've called How to Become an Industry Authority. And I am joined by the lovely Erin Haskell from heatinghelp.com, all the way from the United States. Erin, welcome back to the microphone.
Thank you so much.
So, Erin, this is the Becoming an Industry Authority series, and we've been through the first episode, which was finding the right niche, and now we're going to be talking about creating some engaging content. And content, I suppose, is the backbone of any authority figure that I've ever come across, and you guys have certainly create a lot of it, and it's pretty amazing, I might add. Who would we say that this episode is primarily directed at?
I would say it's directed at anyone who's looking to, market a business or build put content on a website.
Yeah. So I think that is so powerful because the reason I asked you that, to be fair, I kind of knew what you were going to say then. But when I talk to my customers, they don't listen to me, my clients. So I really wanted them to hear it come from somebody who's got an absolute online empire. So guys, this is directed at, this is directed at anybody that has a website, okay? You need to be out there creating content. So why is it important, Erin?
As I mentioned earlier in the last podcast, a lot of the search engines will look for websites that are constantly having new content on it. Mm-hmm. So that, from the scientific perspective, that's one reason to have new content. From the human perspective, it's important to have fresh things to give reasons for people to keep coming back to your website.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, I suppose, the strategy behind content creation, because obviously, we can jump on websites and we can write web pages and all this kind of stuff. However, you do see absolutely terribly written copy across websites and blogs and that kind of thing. And then it's pretty easy to tell, what content has been written for the purpose of search engines only, what content is actually a reader. So I suppose I'd like to hear from somebody that does create a hell of a lot of content. What's your strategy around that?
We write the content for the user in mind first and foremost. I know what you're saying about the search engine content. I used to work for a firm in DC that wrote content for sites, and how many different ways can you say resort hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey, or but it'll attract the search, but it might not. Once people get there, they won't really pick up on that. So they want to stick around. Our strategy, we generally listen a lot. We listen to what people are talking about on our discussion forum. Mm-hmm. And then we also have very robust Google Analytics. So we see what people are clicking on and what they're lingering on, what they're spending time on. And then we give them more of that.
And so when you're creating content, do you collaborate with people? I mean, like I'm having you on this show right now to collaborate on the topic of how to become an industry authority. Do you do similar stuff on your forums and blogs?
Yes, we do. We have some experts on our site that contribute content.
Now, let's talk quickly about how powerful it is for, if you're trying to position yourself as an expert. It's an extremely powerful position to be in when you're actually interviewing and questioning and collaborating with other experts. So it kind of, in my experience, it kind of takes the heat off you, but at the same time, it kind of gives you the same presence. So obviously, I know absolutely very, very, very little about heating. Coming from Australia, all I know is, although I could do some of it right now, but for typically the most part of the year, it's pretty warm. So I'm not sure if the heating industry in Australia is as big as it would be in the United States. However, by getting people on the show that are experts in heating, it also gives me credit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you guys are collaborating with specialists, are these people that are you going out there to find these various topics of conversation? So say there might be an interest in something come through your forum, a certain topic, and then you go research somebody who is an expert in that area, and then it's like a similar format. You get them on the show to talk about that?
It generally goes the other way around. We have we have a friend named Ray Wolfarth, who's a specialist in commercial boilers. So he gives us articles for the website that we think our audience will find interesting based on. So we haven't started, I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because this is something that I'd love to pursue in the future, in terms of content creation, actually seeking out experts. But our approach as up until this point has been more, a little bit more reactive, so say we noticed last winter that there were a lot of people coming into our forum and talking about PEX piping and will it freeze. So we noticed, okay, there's a need for content based on that. So we created an article, and we do a lot of the writing in-house. We wrote an article specifically about that, just pulling from the different opinions of the experts who come on our site.
Yeah.
So that, and there's also, some things about how to paint an old radiator. So we'll provide some content about that.
So in those scenarios, there's been conversations around freezing PEX pipes. Do you guys take that upon yourselves to go and research the solution or the outcome to that equation, or do you fall back on a professional who could help you, who has experience with that and can actually give you firsthand feedback?
Well, the great thing about our forum is the conversation is already happening. Okay. So there are a ton of experts on there. I mean, there was a guy who works in Alaska who said that one of his customers went out of town for 2 weeks and it was below 40, and he came back and all the pipes were frozen, but nothing burst. So, he gave us more info on the topic, and it was a first-hand account, and it was fantastic. So then we can take that content and sum it up in an article so that if someone's on our main website, they can go there and find out more. So it just provides more areas for people to find answers to things that they're having questions about.
Okay, I get you. So basically, in that scenario, it was those questions and that conversation through the forum that led you to create that specific piece of content.
Yes.
While at the same time providing you with many of the answers.
Yeah.
That's very clever. Very clever. Time to start cranking my forum a bit more, I think. So let's talk about, we're talking about creating engaging content here. Obviously the forum for you guys, well, that makes a lot of sense. For a lot of our listeners, they won't have a forum. Although I say that, maybe they will. I mean, I suppose you can look at things like, Facebook, I suppose, in a way that could potentially be a kind of forum. What are the different types of content that we can create? Like, I mean, obviously we're talking now on a podcast. This is like audio content. What else would there be? There's blogs, I guess, right? So written.
Yeah. So we have our web content. There's print. My father writes for several print trade magazines. Video. We just launched 2 of our seminars on a video platform. We recorded, and this is great. I'm learning, more as this technology develops. But we were able to record his seminars on my computer screen on the PowerPoint with audio from him using Camtasia video software. And then we use PivotShare to serve and sell the videos. So now people who weren't able to hear his seminars before, be it that they weren't able to make it or they, he didn't go to the area where they were located. Now they're able to watch these videos from the comfort of their own home. Or, if they've seen them before, they can get a refresher about it.
That is so powerful. That is actually one thing that I was taught a while ago from a friend and colleague of mine, Dave Jennings in Australia. He is I suppose an authority on creating authority content, and he just released a book yesterday actually, which I just received in the mail, called Authority Content. And I might even send you a copy of this because I think you'll quite like it. But he has always taught me over the years, if you're going to be ever presenting or recording or, holding a workshop or a seminar or whatever it is, always record it, because then you can take that content and you can turn it into a video course or a training series or whatever it is. Like, you can really repurpose it.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, YouTube is the second largest search engine out there now.
Right.
So a lot of that is coming up on search, and people don't really realize the power of it because they're not filling in those descriptions,
right,
and the different things. And I was reading a book talking about the image recognition now behind that. A lot of car dealerships are using that in their marketing. They'll compare one car to another. A Honda, Toyota, they'll compare the two, and then they'll show up in search for both.
Yeah. Okay.
So people are looking for one car, and they'll come and see. So it's interesting, all of the potential that's there with video.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. And it's funny actually. I've only in the last few weeks we've just uploaded every single podcast we've done to YouTube. Because I don't know why it took me so long, to be honest. Like, I always preach, it's the world's second biggest search engine. And then I was sitting at home one day reading something and I was like, why have my podcast not on YouTube? So now they all are. So now they're searchable. But yeah, no, it's a pretty powerful tool. I mean, I suppose the way that we as people have started consuming content these days, or, we're talking about engaging, creating engaging content, we've got to kind of meet our audience where they're at. And I mean, I know especially for my audience, and I imagine we sort of share a similar demographic, like they love video. A lot of my guys are far more inclined to watch a video than, read a blog post. So, it's even sort of come to the point where if we're going to create a blog post, then we'd probably create a video on it as well.
Yes, I agree. We're seeing similar trends in our side of things as well.
I think as well, just for the convenience of it, it's so, you can listen to an audio while you're driving. You can even listen to, I suppose a video while you're doing something else. Reading is super important. I love doing it, but I think for a lot of the guys, they may struggle with the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the reasons why we decided to go with the podcast, because guys can, they can just walk around with their headphones in all day while they're at work and they can still get value,
Yes, I do the same with the audiobooks.
Right. Oh, so all your books, are they audiobooks as well?
Yeah. Oh, well, we haven't done that yet. That's a long-term goal. But
okay.
The books we sell are non-audio yet. It's a challenge because a lot of them involve diagrams and images to point out, to illustrate the various principles.
Yes. Good point.
But concept books in general can be brought on. And my dad does have a book called What Hydronics Taught Holohan that would do very well on audio. So I just have to wait and see if his voice is up for it.
Oh,
I just got him to record the seminars, so that was 6+ hours. I think he needs a break.
Oh, poor Dan. You'll be right. So, does he? When you're, excuse my ignorance here, when you're recording an audio book, is it you that's reading it out, or do you normally have like are there professional audiobook readers or something?
Oh, we haven't even done this, but
okay.
From what I've seen on Audible, sometimes you can. I think you can do it on your own, but I think you do need high quality sound.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I see a lot of them going toward the professional reader.
Yeah, I think I'd be leaning that way myself. I'm not the best reader.
Well, you're radio trained with the podcast, I think.
Well, maybe. Yeah, that's it. As my friends tell me, I've definitely got a head for radio, so that's good. So when we're talking about sharing this content syndication, do you guys have any strategies around, what I suppose primarily creating engaging content and then getting it out there and getting people engaging with it?
Yeah. So our newsletter is a good example of this because we send out the newsletter every Thursday.
Yep.
And what we do is we have Google Alerts set up for various topics within heating. So we capture all of the different news stories that are going on in the world, and we'll write little articles about them. And put them in our newsletter with the links to the various articles. And the thing that I think people like about our newsletter is that it's not rarely about us. It's mostly about, the cool stuff and the news. And, occasionally we'll put a sale in there or neat things that we're doing. But I think that the reason why we've had so many loyal followers is because we don't really, it's not too salesy and it doesn't push things on people. So we'll pull this news and then we'll send that out every Thursday, and people like it because they know when it's going to come. It's reliable. We have their permission to contact them. It's entirely opt-in.
Yeah.
So we do that on Thursday. More recently, we started a Tuesday newsletter, and that we will point out different products that we have, but in the sense, our main newsletter is mostly news.
Okay, and so why Thursday?
Initially, we did some when things were when this whole newsletter thing was young. It was said that Thursday is a good day for opens because people, Mondays are tough because people are just coming in and their inboxes are full and so we chose Thursday, figuring the week is winding down. People are more apt to have an inbox that is less busy.
Have you tested that?
We moved it around initially, and we found that Thursday is a good day for us, for our audience. We tested it a little as far as time of day, but overall, I found that consistency trumps, moving it around. Yeah. Because once people know they're going to expect your newsletter at this time on this day, you hesitate to move it.
Yeah, no, I got you. Because that's something obviously our newsletter's a lot newer than yours, but we release ours on a Friday. However, I've been toying with the idea of maybe just moving around a little bit to see what responds better. And I'm thinking Friday may not be the best because people are winding up and they maybe not be checking emails. So maybe I'll give Thursday a crack and see if we get any better in opens.
Give Thursday a try and let me know. We found that the Friday, not everyone's around.
Yeah.
It's particularly in the summer. The 3-day weekends and stuff come into play.
Yeah, cool. Okay. All right. Well, look, I think that kind of wraps up what I wanted to talk about there. I suppose in creating engaging content, my takeaway and my advice for listeners out there would be make it relevant to your audience. Don't create content on things that you think they'd want to hear. And what I mean by that is, I so frequently, obviously we build websites and we get a lot of people giving us content, and the content they give us is so written for themselves. Like it's technical and, there's jargon and there's all this stuff in there that typically people that, could potentially be one of their customers, they would have no idea what they're talking about. So I think if you're going to be creating content, mate, create it like with the reader in mind. Don't be out there creating it, for what you'd want to read, because you have a lot more experience in those sort of things, and don't necessarily create it with the sole purpose of showing up on the search engines. However, you can certainly employ, search engine optimization strategy into your articles, and I encourage everyone to do that. But I wouldn't necessarily do it for the sole purpose of that. Any takeaways from you, Erin?
Yes, I agree. And I'd say keep it interesting and informative. We use a lot of stories and real life examples to illustrate our points. And I find that resonates well with our audience.
Okay, that's cool. So like case studies kind of things. Is that what you mean?
Case studies and more so real life stories. As you know, my father is a very good storyteller, so he'll look for article ideas in everyday life, and he'll just tell stories from when he was on the job or otherwise. He never lets the truth get in the way of a story, of a good story. So the technical info will be spot on, but a lot of the embellishing it'll be fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of why he's such a successful person in the industry. He's just so much fun to be around. And
yeah, one thing we didn't touch on, which I suppose we should before we close up, is social media. So obviously, social media is, there's a lot of noise on social media, but it is a good medium to distribute content. And it is a good medium, I suppose, to gain an audience. Do you guys use a lot of social media?
We do, but we don't rely on it as much as we do on our main sites. Just because we're looking at our analytics, Facebook ranks maybe number 7 in terms of referrals.
Yeah.
For traffic into the site.
Okay.
So we're engaged, we're active. My advice for social media is don't jump into all of the platforms.
Yeah.
Pick a handful that will work well with your business and your preferences, and then be all in on those, because there's nothing worse than having, a Pinterest or a Facebook or a Twitter where you're not engaging, and then people will start to think you're not engaged and you're not responsive in your business. Yeah,
it's one thing we always teach people, it's important to claim all of that real estate for yourself so no one else can, but choose pretty wisely where you spend your time. And, especially if you've got a visual product, like if you're a landscape gardener or you're a builder and you do renovations and decks and this kind of stuff, like that's a very visual product, and visual social platforms will work well in your favor in those regards, your Instagrams and, potentially Pinterest and things like that. Whereas, you got to be realistic about, I suppose, sharing those sort of that visual content on places like LinkedIn. You're probably not going to get very much engagement at all. So just be selective, I suppose.
Yes, I agree.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks for that. I think we're pretty much done on that topic, which is the second of the third episode in the industry, How to Become an Industry Authority series. We're going to come back with the third episode, which is going to be attracting an audience. So thank you, Erin Haskell, for joining us once again.
Thank you.
And listeners, will be back with the following episode. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.